In this video, I'll demonstrate one method of doing a hemmed cast on. It is a double thickness in the hemmed area. It makes a very nice professional looking edge that's extremely elastic, and it can give a little extra weight where you need it. This whole section then is considered the hem. So to start, you will need 2 sets of circular needles. And I made these 2 very different just so that you can distinguish between them. But you'll hold the 2 needles parallel in your left hand, make a slip knot, and place it on the bottom needle. So the top needle is the larger needle. The top needle should be the needle that you're actually going to use in the pattern for gauge, and then your bottom needle should just be 2 sizes smaller roughly than the top needle. That part isn't very critical, but place the slip knot on the smaller needle, and then we're just going to wrap the yarn counterclockwise around the needles. So go behind first and then come in front. If your needles are pointing at you, that's counterclockwise, wrapping around. So just do the number of wraps that you need for your pattern. And if you're doing a long hem, then you can build up a whole lot of stitches along your needles. And the trick is just to make sure that you slide your needles starting. I would just pull the slip knot and then kind of scooch the needles. It's pretty easy to scooch your needles so that like these stitches go over the top of these ones, and you just don't want that to happen. So always start scooching from this end and then just gradually scooch, being careful not to let your tail like slide back under these stitches or to pull these stitches over the top of these stitches. But once you're done, you'll end, or once you have the number of wraps you need, you'll end with the yarn coming in front of both needles, and then bring the yarn to the back and hold it there. And then we're going to pull this needle to the right, so that all those wraps go onto this cable. And those wraps are actually just going to hang out on this cable for the whole first part of this cast on. And then you'll do stockinette on the stitches that are on your working needle. So take your other working needle now, and I'm just going to start knitting. So we're going to knit all of these wraps off of the needle and onto. And once you get to the end, it will look like this. I have to knit that one. And your slip knot will just be hanging out on the cable. Then you're going to turn your work. Turn your work, and still just ignoring all the stitches that are on this cable and ignoring this cable. We'll purl back. It's also a good idea to put end stoppers on the ends of the needle that you're not using, the one that is just holding the stitches. That way your stitches won't slide off accidentally. If you've got a whole lot of stitches, then that could be an issue. But just purl back across. And then you're going to continue like this in stockinette for however many rows the pattern or the hem calls for. So here again, turn your work and just continue stocking it. It's a little awkward, but those out of the way, and as you work, you'll build up more stitches between, or more rows between your cable and your working needle. Okay, so once you have the number of stockinette rows that the pattern calls for, then you're going to basically just connect this edge with this edge so that you have a folded hem. So to do that, you push this needle back into those stitches and bring the needle up behind your working needle. Keep your yarn to the back. You can kind of just push the stitches in between the needles, and you're going to knit one stitch from the front needle together with one stitch from the back needle. So it's a little bit awkward, stick with it. So just go into that first stitch on the working needle, into the next stitch on the back needle, and knit those two stitches together. Into the stitch, knit them together. If it's really awkward for you to do that knit two together, you can just do an SSK basically with the two stitches. So you slip the stitch from the first needle, slip the stitch from the second needle, and then put those stitches back on the first needle and knit them together. Just have to be careful not to let stitches slide off of either of the needles really. So you can SSK, and then you can use the back needle to do that final stitch, but it accomplishes the same thing. So slip, slip, and then knit those through the back, or just knit these two together. There is another method too where you do, I've just been experimenting with a couple different methods, but on the purl row, on your last purl row, you can do a setup, and I'll demonstrate that next also. So you'll get to the end and you'll notice the slip knot is still there. The slip knot doesn't count as a stitch. So when you get to the last stitch on your front needle, then you'll still have that slip knot hanging out in the back needle, and just take that slip knot off and you can actually pull it out and then weave in your end. And then usually to complete this hem you would just do one final purl row back to get you back to the right side. But you can see you have a double layered edge that's very elastic, and it looks very nice and clean. And now I'll show you the other method. So I encourage you to try this cast on a small swatch to see which method is most comfortable for you. But this is an alternate. If that last one felt a little bit awkward, this one might be better. But this one, you're going to start it, or you're gonna join them really on your last purl row. So you do have to decide which one you want to do before you get to the complete end. So in this one, you're going to be bringing these two up, but on your purl row, you're just going to set it up for yourself so that you don't have to do that awkward knitting from this needle and this one. So in this one, your slip knot is the first thing on your needles on the bottom one. So after you've pulled your stitches onto this needle, then just going to take out your slip knot, pull that out, and then you can just leave your yarn down. And this time you're just going to purl across these top stitches, but you're going to slip one stitch from the bottom needle onto your needle after each purl. So you're purling across the top, so you'll purl one from the top needle, and then you're just going to slip one stitch from the bottom needle onto your needle. So purl from the top, and then just slip the bottom stitch onto your needle. And once you've done that, then you'll turn your work. At this point, you're done with the extra needle. So you'll just turn your work, and now you'll knit two together all the way across. So basically, you're just moving those stitches up, so you didn't have to knit two together from both needles. And you'll end up with the same thing. So now this is the right side of the work, so you'll probably do one more purl row to get yourself back to the right side. And you have your nice hem to cast on. Thanks for watching.